Whoa. Well, that was fucking terrible, huh? What's up? Welcome to a late night edition of the Gallant Says podcast live on Twitch, on YouTube. Jesus, the Astros just got their asses kicked by the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 3 of the World Series. 7-0. And the story of this game is that Lance McCullers, he really had the shit beat out of him. 5 home runs in a game where he clearly had some sort of tell. And now, you really got to wonder about the Astros' chances. They're going to have to send it back to Houston to win this thing in totality. If I hear just one more compliment of the Phillies fan base on that Fox broadcast, I think I'm going to throw myself through a window. But they hit those 5 home runs, so you got to give the Philly scum credit. Let's just start with Lance McCullers. And they didn't talk about it on the broadcast for whatever reason. But when Lance McCullers was throwing off speed stuff versus throwing a fastball, he had a different leg kick. And there was a moment on the broadcast after Bryce Harper hit that home run in the first inning where he told Alec Baum about it. They zoom in on it. Great job by the camera work there of saying, hey, Bryce Harper told Baum something. So the very next inning, Baum goes yard, and then Marsh hits a home run. And then in the 5th inning, where for some reason Lance McCullers was still in the game, you get a 2-run home run from Kyle Schwarber, and Rhys Hoskins hit a home run as well. And at that point, I mean, the game's over. If you've been watching the Astros at all this year, yes, they have come back from a couple of big deficits, but for the most part, their offense does not do well when they're down big. I don't know what the reason is for that, but if you fall in a 7-0 hole, even if there's 4 innings left, 4 frames left for the Astros to get back in it, I just don't trust this team to get back into the game. So you start with Lance McCullers, who really stunk, and then you take a look at the lineup. Top of the order, Jose Altuve threw Kyle Tucker 1 hit between the 5 of them. And we're talking about over a period of, do a little math, 12, 3, 20 at-bats, 1 hit, 2 walks. Not like they were striking out, but come on, you got to do something at the plate. And I really felt like they set the tone for themselves in the first inning of this game with such quick at-bats. First pitch of the game, Jose Altuve lines out to right. He got a good piece of it, that's for sure. But the very next pitch, Jeremy Pena grounds it out. Then the very, let's say like a 7-pitch at-bat, Yordan Alvarez strikes out. 9 pitches in the first inning for a guy in Ranger Suarez who pitched a couple of days ago. I feel like you should have been a little more patient in that inning. I suppose that everyone has a different approach. It's the World Series, but you have a top of the order. These guys have been routinely patient throughout the season, and you start off with that inning where it's just, boom, really quickly over. And then in the very next inning, Bryce Harper goes yard after you walk Kyle Schwarber to lead off the game. Like, that's it. Sadly, I mean, it really never felt like the Astros showed up for this game. And I know some people are going to blame the rain delay. Some people might blame some weird strikes that were being called that seemed to be outside of the strike zone. I'm sure that'll happen. That happens in every single game. But I look at it from the perspective of Lance McCullers stunk, and this offense just isn't what it's been in the past. Someone's got to step up. Where's Yordan Alvarez been for a while? Kyle Tucker showed up in game 1. Jose Altuve has shown up for most of the last couple of games. Jeremy Pena, not there. Alex Bregman, not able to pick up the pieces, though you like the at-bat that he had towards the end of the game. And it really felt like this thing was over in the 6th when they put in Jose Urquidy. Once Urquidy was in, and you're bringing in Ryan Stanek, who clearly the Astros don't think that highly of, if they're bringing Ryan Stanek into a game where, it's already 7-0. For whatever reason, Stanek hasn't been used that much this postseason. He gets brought in the bottom of the 5th. It's just frustrating. Very frustrating. I know some people are going to point to Dusty Baker for this. Dusty can't hit. Lance McCullers is supposed to do his job in a situation like this, in a game like this, and he didn't. I think for all the complaining about Dusty, okay, maybe he should have been pulled from the game in the bottom of the fifth. But it was 4-0 already at that point. We're talking about a difference of 3 runs. Had the Astros scored it all, maybe I'd be a little bit more annoyed with it, but it's a 4-0 game. You're hoping that whatever if the Astros ever became aware of it, Lance was giving to those Phillies batters, they would finally figure it out. And I feel like that's on... I'm not sure what the communication level is from those who are upstairs, those who might be watching the game on TV, if that's even allowed anymore, given what we saw when the Astros go through. But I'm surprised that there was never a point over those 5 innings that someone said, hey, he's got a tell going on here. Now, easy for us watching the broadcast to say that, and it's definitely hindsight 2020, but it felt like everyone was aware that Lance McCullers had a tell, except for Lance McCullers himself. And Martin Maldonado, defensive specialist, come on, you got to do something there, I would hope. What else do we have here? Zach Wu says leaving McCullers in was poor management. I don't think it was a good decision, but I don't think it really made that much of a difference. They couldn't hit today. And credit to Ranger Suarez, who, pitched on Friday. Not that long on Friday, but he still pitched on Friday, and he came in, and, he never seemed to be challenged in the slightest. Ecthelion 4200 says, I'm scared this isn't coming back. I'm not there yet, but I don't feel confident about this series anymore. Philly is hitting the shit out of the ball. When they're making contact with it, it's going far. And while Lance McCullers has always been frustratingly inconsistent, you weren't expecting this. I think really what sucks now, just thinking back to the start of this World Series, is that the guys that weren't in last year's World Series, Verlander and McCullers, you think you have them back, you think you're going to be in pretty good shape. They've thrown for 9 1/3 innings. They've allowed 12 hits, walked 4, 5 home runs, 12 earned runs, an ERA of 11.56. Holy shit. Bob's 4 says Baker's making bad decisions. McCullers got lit up by the Yankees, who couldn't tell a Valot saved their life. I don't know what you meant by that, but maybe you're suggesting that Christian Javier should have started game 3. McCullers did not look good against the Yankees. He looked significantly worse in this one. Cold Take Jim says this has a 90s Brave feel to it. I don't think you could say anything else. I feel the same way right now. It really does feel like this team gets a little bit tight when it's the World Series. It's a bummer, but did you feel like they were pressing at the beginning of that game? Yeah, I kind of did. They were swinging at everything. They were aggressive. Great. Credit on the world to you for that, but I feel like that was the wrong approach. Maybe that's on Dusty Baker. Maybe that's just on the Astros hitters themselves. But I feel like Dusty Baker, if we're going to make a blame pie here, Dusty Baker is only getting a small slice of the pie. I think the biggest slice of the pie goes to Lance McCullers. He was fucking dreadful, Jesse Del Real. It's not a surprise. Astros choke every year, except for 2017. I suppose you got to define choke. Is it losing in the World Series? I do think it's interesting that a team that makes it all the way to the championship and loses there gets lambasted more than the teams who can't even make it, like the Yankees or the Dodgers. But, whatever. Idaho Drive asks, is this a referendum? And this is on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gallant says, is this a referendum on 2017 if they don't win? I don't feel that way. However, it will certainly be validation for the people who believe that the Astros were cheating their faces off when nobody else in baseball was doing it back in 2017. I'm sure Bill Plaschke is jacking himself off to this one because of that column he wrote saying oh, wow, the Astros were cheated in 2017, and I'm not over it yet. Maybe some members of the New York Yankees. I'm sure Dave Robertson, who's pitching for the Phillies in this series, used to pitch for the Yankees back in 2017. I'm sure he's thinking that to himself as well. I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but I think I'm a little bit biased on that front. They've been really fucking good, for this entire stretch. They've been to the ALCS every single year the last 6 years. This is their 4th World Series appearance. And it's a 2-1 series. Philadelphia took the first one at home. Do you expect Philadelphia to end this series in Philly? I don't feel that way. Like, I really think it's as simple as McCullers sucked, and they couldn't hit. But there's a lot of criticism. I saw a tweet from Evan Gattis. Evan Gattis, you might know for his meaty forearms. I used to want to, like slice him off and like put him on mine. Sort of be like Charlie's creepy uncle in Always Sunny in Philadelphia who wears like the giant hands. Now, maybe not exactly the person that you want to be, but Evan Gattis has massive forearms and never wore gloves. And I just always felt like he looked like either a 1920s barkeep who also doubled as a bouncer or a 1920s bare knuckle boxer. But anyway, he tweeted this out. I find a lot of Astros fans very disrespectful towards the Astros. I don't entirely disagree with him. There is a bit of a wine and cheese element to the fan base now that they have experienced success. I would know this, having grown up a Patriots fan. I feel like, yeah, you get a little more spoiled as time goes on, but I don't think I ever dumped on what they actually were. It helps, though, that the Patriots won 3 Super Bowls in the 3 appearances that they made it over 4 years, where the Astros, right, they're down 2-1 against another National League East team, even if they have been making it to the World Series. When you don't actually win it, and then you take a look at those 90s Braves, as Cold Take Jim said a little bit earlier. Yeah. Bob's Four says, feels like we should have switched it up with the pitching after the delay like the Phillies did. Well, that seems like it would be random for the Astros, right? Right? I mean, think about all the days that they've had off just over the course of these playoffs. It helped the Phillies, that's for sure. I don't want to act like the rain delay, though, gave the Phillies some edge, you know? Like, if the Astros are going to win this series, the rain delay shouldn't have affected it. They still have better pitching. Pitching, in the case of Justin Verlander and Lance McCullers, though, over a third of the 3 games you've played has just been absolutely dreadful. Everyone else has been pretty damn good. You know, they've held Philadelphia in check outside of Verlander and McCullers. That is why you're down 0-2 right now. But think about all the days that they had off. So they had, of course, let me go back to the schedule of the MLB playoffs, because, you know, if you go back to the actual start of the whole damn thing, which was what? So the regular season, when did that end? The regular season ended on, was it the 3rd? The 4th? Let's see. I'm scrolling through here. The regular season for baseball ended on Wednesday, October 5th. So the Astros were off October 6th, October 7th, October 8th, October 9th, October 10th, and they finally played their first game October 11th. So we're talking about 8 days before they start. Then you have an off day between game 1 and 2. Then you have an off day between game 2 and 3. Then after sweeping, you have 3 days off before the series begins in New York. You have a travel day in between those 4 games. And then the ALCS ends the 23rd. You're back in action the 28th. And now you have the 2 days in between Saturday's game and tonight. Switching things up, I don't think is really anything other than trying to be superstitious. You know, they've had plenty of rest. The Phillies' advantage was that instead of having to throw Noah Syndergaard out there, they could put Ranger Suarez out, who they clearly trusted a lot more. That guy's clearly got poise and deserves a lot of credit for the way that he pitched. Bob's Four asks, why was there so much faith in McCullers after he got lit up by the Yankees, who could barely hit a baseball? It's a good question. I feel like Christian Javier might have been the right play. Honestly, maybe Framber Valdez would have been the right play in game 1. It's tricky with Verlander because he was the best pitcher in baseball this year, and he just has this very weird World Series record where he's 0-6 in 9 appearances. McCullers, I don't get it, the faith in him necessarily, because he's always been inconsistent. He's a mystery box. When he's on, he's fucking on. And he has been pretty consistent this year, especially down the stretch. I think that looking at that game against the Yankees, and it's being played in the Bronx, I think you can talk yourself into that being a one-time thing. But now I don't know how you play it. I don't want to go back to McCullers. I want to find a way, in fact, to get Framber Valdez the ball back as quickly as possible. But the way things stand right now, Christian Javier starts tomorrow night, and Justin Verlander starts Game 5 on Thursday. Should we pitch Verlander again this series? I don't feel good about it. I think you still have to, though. I mean, it's crazy that he's 0-6 in the World Series. What could possibly be the reason that he has that? It's hard to say. It's not like he seems nervous and shit. He gets off the team bus in Philadelphia after they're throwing rocks and batteries at the actual thing, and he flicks Philly fans off. He seems relaxed. Bob's Four continues saying, I'm honestly just fucking pissed off. Like, most of us probably are. Yeah, I mean, that's everyone right now. And it's a shame. I think that if you could point at a lot of different people, and maybe you can point at the whole lineup as to why things are the way that they are right now, then I think you would be able to calm yourself down a little bit and just saying like, oh, well, no one's playing well. But it really is on Lance McCullers and Justin Verlander for the most part, and an offense that was only able to get 5 hits tonight. I got to say, at the very least, the bottom of the order did its job. David Hensley had a walk early on in the game. He had a hit, too. Check that. He had the hit on that long at bat. It felt like it was a walk, but he worked his way back from down 0-2. He gets on base with I think a single up the middle. Chas McCormick, he got a hit. He got a walk. Yes, a couple of strikeouts. And Martin Maldonado, he had a strikeout too. But those guys got 3 of your 5 hits. Yuli Gurriel got the other one. And Jeremy Pena is the only guy that's doing anything at the top of the order. So the bottom of the lineup did, I feel like, a reasonable job. Lance McCullers just struggled, and so did the top of the Astros bats. It's really that simple. And now you got to wonder what's going to happen next. If we were putting money down before the series began on what storyline of this World Series would be most overplayed, though, we definitely should have said the Phillies crowd. Oh, my God. Look, the Phillies crowd, Philadelphia is not a baseball town. It's a football town. They get excited about the Phillies, that's for sure. But, I mean, the way that they got excited after the first out of the game was I felt like as loud as they were after that Castellanos catch as they were for any of the home runs later on. Like, they don't know how it works. And I'm just getting sick and tired of them getting all the credit that they are getting. It's not like they're a smart baseball fan base or anything like that. Not even really like they're that loud. They just are Philadelphians, and Philadelphians get a lot more credit for being sports fans, good sports fans, than they probably should, given that their track record isn't exactly great. But whatever, that's just me. It's a weird game. The Astros lit up Ranger the last time we played them. That is for sure at the very end of the regular season, Wrights Idaho Drive on Twitch. I don't know what to say on that one either. I really don't. So, Christian Javier is the guy that's got to be the stopper. And I love Christian Javier. I think he's got filthy stuff. I think he can challenge these Phillies bats, but like I don't feel confident in him. And I really don't feel confident in the Astros bats because if you take a look at the majority of this series, they have been very, very quiet. Of course, tonight, they don't even score. Game 1, they got off to a pretty good start. With the second and the third inning, you have Kyle Tucker homering in each of them. But from the third inning on, you didn't see shit. If I'm taking a look back, third inning on, I'm taking a look at the play-by-play. 1-2-3 inning for the Astros in the 4th. 1-2-3 inning for the Astros in the 5th. A inning in the 6th where they got an infield single and a walk, but no runs out of that one. 1-2-3 inning in the 7th. We're talking about game 1 again. Bottom of the 8th, Kyle Tucker gets a single, but you have a ground out from Bregman before. Gurriel grounding into a fielder's choice afterwards, and Trey Mancini, of course, striking out swinging. Bottom of the 9th, you have Altuve on first. If Jeremy Pena, that ball drops after Castellanos made that nice catch, maybe Altuve scores. There were 2 outs. He did steal second. but that doesn't happen. And then, of course, you lose. There wasn't enough offense outside of maybe that little stretch in the 9th inning where you thought anything could happen. And then you have a great first inning where you open up the game with 3 doubles in the bottom of the first, and you get an error, too, that helps you out. But after that, what did you get? You got a 2-run homer from Alex Bregman, and, again, quiet bats. These bats have not done well, and the Phillies pitching was supposed to be not an advantage for Philadelphia. Your bats are about on the same level as what Philadelphia has. Philadelphia has been, I feel like, yes, quiet in game 2, but I feel like they have definitely been the better unit between the two, especially after what we saw tonight. So you can't go quiet as long as you're going quiet. You can blame Dusty Baker if you want on this. I'm just not going to join in that conversation, you know? What do we have here? Zachawoo says predictions for the rest of the series as well as game 4. I am no longer going to say Astros in however many games are left. I don't feel that way right now because the offense has been missing for far too long. I do think that they will win game 4. I don't feel great about game 5 with Verlander on the hill. I think they could be going back to Houston down 3-2 with the way that things have gone to this point. And you just got to hope that Framber Valdez and I would think Christian Javier, who would be on, I guess, comparatively short rest, are able to go back-to-back. Because I don't feel great about the idea of going back to a Lance McCullers. You obviously got to win tomorrow. Big-time pressure on Christian Javier. Harish Sukumaran says that Jose Altuve should bat down the order. I don't know about that. I mean, he was 3 for 4 in game 2. Let's not get too crazy, you know? You still want to set the table right. And it feels like when the Astros aren't able to set the table early on in a game that they're fucked, especially if the other team scores more than 3 runs. You just don't feel good about their ability to come back. I would just like the next time that they go up against a pitcher that's maybe on short rest, out of his typical routine, to be a little more patient. Because really the only point in this game where it felt like, okay, maybe the Astros are about to do something was as we got towards the end of Ranger Suarez's pitching performance. I want to say it was like what? Not the top of my head, I'm forgetting, so I'm looking it up on the stat paper for a second. I want to say it was the 5th inning. That was the last inning he was in. So there's 2 outs. Gurriel grounded out. Hensley struck out. But McCormick got on base and Maldonado singled. So you had runners on first and second. And Jose Altuve, on a 2-pitch at bat, fouled out. That was probably the one spot where it looked like you could do pretty much anything, unless you want to count the top of the second where Yuli and Hensley set Chas McCormick up with 2 out, 2 runners on. But like Chas McCormick, do you expect him on a regular basis to do anything in that spot? No, you don't. What else do we have? James says, Jeremy Pena. He did have a hit. He almost fouled out on a bunt. That would have been bad. Bob's 4 says, I agree. Move Altuve back. Where are you moving him? Where are you moving him in the lineup? And who are you going to move into that leadoff spot? I don't agree with that one. No. I suppose you might suggest like Jeremy Pena or something like that. Jordan's got to do something. His average in this series is .091. That's the worst in the lineup. That is worse than Martin Maldonado. That is worse than Chas McCormick. Obviously, David Hensley's only had the at-bats that he had tonight. It's worse than Yuli, worse than Tucker, worse than Bregman, who's hitting 182 right now, worse than Pena at 250, and worse than Altuve at 308. Bob suggests McCormick first, Altuve ninth. No, come on. Maximize the at-bats for your best hitters. You want to wait until the 3rd inning to see Altuve? You want to find yourself in another spot if the Phillies pitching is cruising, that he's back there? No, I don't agree with that at all. The lineup isn't the issue as far as like what order the guys are hitting in. The lineup is the issue because they can't fucking hit. They got to hit. That's the way it goes. All right, I'm going to be talking more about this tomorrow. You can tune in to the Paul Gallant Show on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 starting at 10 Central Time. We'll be talking all about this game all morning long. If you have any more takes, bring them. I'm sure I will have more to say about this, and we'll also hear from the people who were involved in this game. That means Dusty Baker, his decisions, why he left Lance McCullers in as long as he did. I'm sure some of the Astros bats as well. So in the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. You can check this out on podcast form, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud as well. Or watch this live on YouTube, on Twitch. We'll be doing it again tomorrow night after the game in case you want to have another little post-game show. But again, big thanks for tuning in. So long. Farewell. You'll hear from me tomorrow.